What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Boo TV. I know it's been a while, and I appreciate you for stepping in. I realize the NBA playoffs have started, and I have not put out my video on my full predictions from beginning to end, the first round, all the way through the winner of the Larry O'Brien Trophy. I have to put all that out there. Now, the conclusions, my opinions that I will share with you are based on my thoughts prior to the playoffs starting and the conclusion of the play-in tournament. So these first couple of games that some teams have played already have no influence on my conclusions that I'm sharing with you today. Just want to make that very clear. And through each round of the playoffs, I will come back and go over where I was wrong, where I was right, and I will also give updated predictions on the rounds where I guessed incorrectly. Let's start with the Western Conference. First, we have the first seeded Oklahoma City Thunder versus the 8th seed Phoenix Suns. The Thunder finished with the NBA's best record, 64-18, and the Suns got in through the play-in tournament and finished 8th in the rankings with a 45-37 record. Not bad, but I don't really need to talk about this much. Everybody knows the Oklahoma City Thunder are leagues better than the Phoenix Suns. They just are. They have one of the best players in the game, arguably the deepest roster in the game, one of the best defenses in the game, a reliable clutch performer, and they are the defending champions, and they're young, and they have experience. It's like, no, there's just nothing to talk about here. I'm going with the Oklahoma City Thunder in a sweep. 4-0 sweep. Enough said. The number 4 Los Angeles Lakers finished with a record of 53-29, good for the 4th seed in the Western Conference. And the Houston Rockets finished with the 5th seed in the West, 52-30. Now, what we know already is that the Los Angeles Lakers have already taken a 1-0 lead, as they have home court advantage as well against the Houston Rockets. Many people predicted the Rockets would win this series, given that the Lakers do not have Luka, Doncic, and they do not have AR, Austin Reeves. But one thing they did not predict is that the Houston Rockets would be starting this series, at least the first game so far, without Kevin Durant because of a knee contusion during practice before the first game of the series. Now, the Lakers already won game 1, like I said, but regardless to the Kevin Durant injury, and I'm a Laker fan, and y'all know me, if you've been watching this channel, I am a honest Lakers fan. I'm not delusional. With or without Kevin Durant, I believe the Lakers are going to win this series, regardless if KD comes back. I just don't have that much faith in the Houston Rockets. I have more faith with a 41-year-old LeBron James being now the focal point of the offense, getting those other players involved, and then other players that don't usually get touches that have potential, such as Luke Kennard, such as DeAndre Ayton, such as LaRavia. These guys that usually don't get the touches when the other players that are injured are here, I think these guys will step up, no problem, and get the job done. In fact, DeAndre Ayton is somebody that's complained about that very thing. And I just don't have faith in the Houston Rockets. I don't. Without Van Vliet, without Steven Adams, no. They have, their offense is too suspect. Pretty good defense, but their offense is just too sus. And if they get KD back, yes, Kevin Durant will obviously help with that, obviously. Even if Kevin Durant is playing point guard, that's going to help. He can be a little high on the turnovers at times because he's not a true point guard, but he does have pretty good facilitating and playmaking skills that I feel are overrated. And, LeBron is a high turnover guy as well, but LeBron is better fit for that point guard position. And I don't have that much faith in Şengün. Like, I know he's a really, really, really good player. I just don't think that highly of him as other people do. I never really have. You never really heard me, speak about that guy much on this channel, going back last season, especially because I just don't think he's there yet. And, I know people call him Mini Joker. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I just don't have that much faith in him. So I was picking the Lakers anyway to win this series with or without KD. And I'm going with the Lakers in 6 was my prediction. Moving on to the Nuggets, the 3 seed versus the Wolves at the 6 seed. The Nuggets finish with a 54-28 record, while the Wolves finish with 49-33. Okay, I just think the Denver Nuggets are going to win this series. I think the Denver Nuggets are the better team. I think the Denver Nuggets have the best player in the NBA, in Nikola Jokic. The Denver Nuggets are completely healthy, and their bench is looking much better, similar to what I saw in the beginning of the season when they stepped onto the scene. And I think they have more reliable players. I think they have more offensive weapons, offensive options. And I think the Wolves can be gritty, can show up defensively, but I don't think there's enough there to halt the Denver Nuggets in a 7-game series. I just don't. And then you got that guy Joker on the floor. You got that guy Jamal Murray, super clutch, always steps his game up in the playoffs. That is a hard tandem to deal with. They are previous champions. They know what it takes to win. And I just can't see them losing in the first round against the Minnesota Timberwolves. All that being said, I don't. And I know they lost home court advantage already, but I'm not wavering off my decision that I had previous to the playoff starting. So I'm going with the Denver Nuggets in 6 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think some of these games are going to be really tough because the Wolves generally do play the Denver Nuggets really tough. It's what history has shown from what I remember, but I just can't see them beating the Denver Nuggets for the reasons I mentioned. So Nuggets in 6. All right, the number 2 San Antonio Spurs finished with a 62-60 record, and the Portland Trailblazers with the 7th seed finished with a 42-40 record. Okay, the Spurs are taking this. I think the Spurs are taking the Blazers out in a sweep. 4-0. No competition here. Yes, I know the Blazers are up and coming. They got that boy Denny, if I said his name right. But no way they're beating the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs have one of the best players in the league. To some people, they think Wemby is the best player in the league. They have one of the deepest rosters in the game. They're well coached. They have multiple offensive weapons that can all do various different things, multiple playmakers. And they haven't lost sight about who the main guy is and know when it's time for Wemby, get the ball to Wemby. And that's something that I hated for the first 2 years of Wemby's career. I felt like Wemby wasn't getting enough focus. But now this season, he has been getting the focus that he deserves and utilizing his size better than he has previously in his career. And that comes with growth. All right, so moving on to the second round of the Western Conference, we now have the number 1 Thunder versus the number 4 Los Angeles Lakers. Regardless to if Luka and Austin Reeves are back by this time, I do not see the Lakers beating the Thunder. Honestly, I just think I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think the Thunder and the Spurs are the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Nuggets are leagues above the rest of the Western Conference. That is what I believe. So I probably gave away a little bit of my prediction early, but that is what I believe. So yeah, the Thunder, they're just a better team top to bottom. Yeah, you might look at LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves and say, well, that trio, the Denver Nuggets don't have a offensive trio as dynamic as that. And that might be so, but the Thunder have everything else that the Lakers don't have. The Lakers are better in every other category you can. They're just a better team top to bottom. And while the Lakers trio can be dynamic offensively, they are absolutely horrendous defensively. I'm sorry, they are. Luka can't stay in front of anybody. Austin Reeves can't stay in front of everybody. And LeBron James can't stay in front of anybody, at least consistently. So what you give in offense, you're also giving up on the other end. But anyway, with all that being said, the Thunder are sweeping the Lakers 4-0. Yeah, I don't think the Lakers can take a single game off the Thunder, not even at home. Ain't no way. The guard play from OKC will eat them alive. The depth, the bench will eat them alive. And their defense is going to eat the Lakers alive. Point blank, period. I never bought into all this talk about the Lakers being contenders in that second half of the season. I never bought into it. Yeah, they were playing good, but to be a contender, you're matched up against the other people in your conference. And there are 3 teams that I just think are leagues are better than them. So from that reason, I don't think they have a chance at making the finals. So they are not a contender if I don't think you have a chance at making the finals. That's my logic. Moving on. Nuggets versus San Antonio Spurs. This is going to be a showdown. I'm going to tell you right now, this series is going 7 games. Spurs have home court advantage. And I think most people would pick the Spurs. So I'm going against the grain. I'm taking the Denver Nuggets over Wemby and the Spurs. The 62-win San Antonio Spurs. Yes, I'm taking the hottest team, one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team coming into the playoffs, and the Denver Nuggets against the defensive player of the year, who's going to be one of the greatest players to ever go down in the history of the game, more than likely in Victor Wembanyama, and all that depth and all that bench, because ultimately the Nuggets, I think, match up well against them because they have depth and they have the best player in the year in the league, and Nikola Jokic. Both of these teams perform well in the clutch, and the Spurs have a great clutch player, and what's that boy's name? De'Aaron Fox. And we know what Jamal Murray brings. We know what Joker brings. And quiet as it's kept, we know what Aaron Gordon brings when the going gets tough. And I think it's going to be a close series. I think it's going to go 7 games. Not just a close series and, series wins versus losses, but I think each game will be close. And I'm just going to, I'm going to give the Nuggets the nod based on their experience that they have. And I do believe that the Nuggets are hungry to get back to getting another championship. Now, would I be surprised if the Nuggets lose to the Spurs? Not at all. I wouldn't be surprised. But, if I had to put my money, my life on a guy to get me there right now, I'm going to put it on Joker and the Nuggets as opposed to Wemby, who's his first time in the playoffs. And I'm sure he's going to play great. But I think that experience might have something to do with it. But we'll see. But I also think De'Aaron Fox will help with that because he does have some playoff experience and has some more, some more weight in the game at this point in their career. But I'm going Denver Nuggets in 7. So that brings us to the Western Conference Finals. The number 1 OKC Thunder versus the Nuggets. Now, they met, I believe, in the second round last year, if I'm not mistaken, and they gave us an absolutely epic 7 games. The Thunder have came back stronger this season. I think they have a better team, and I think they'll be better with their championship pedigree now that they have under their belt. And the Nuggets have came back with a better team. The Nuggets bench is much stronger than they had last year. Last year, they pretty much just had Westbrook holding the whole bench down. And, for the games Westbrook didn't show up, there wasn't really anybody else showing up when Westbrook wasn't having a good game. But this time, they actually have some depth that they can rely on. So I think the Nuggets have definitely gotten much better despite the record. I'm telling you what my eyes tell me, and especially now that they're healthy. I believe we're going to get treated to another thrilling 7-game series that's going to be played on OKC's home court again, this time in the Western Conference Finals. I picked the Nuggets last year, and you know what? I'm going with the Nuggets again. I think the Nuggets are hungry to get payback on Oklahoma City. I do believe that Shea will likely be the MVP this season, and I have no problem with that. But I still think Joker is the best player in the game. And, I'm leaning on the Nuggets, man. They match up well with the Thunder. You have 2 super duper stars on the squad. They each got their wingmen who have shown that they can perform in these high leverage moments. And they both can put up points in a hurry. They both can score the ball at multiple dimensions. OKC's defense, I would say, is better than Denver's. However, this is a game of matchups at the same time. And when you talk about matchups, that defense might not match up against one particular team like it does the rest of the league through the course of a season. You gotta keep that in mind. But, I'm taking the Nuggets to make it to the NBA Finals, representing the West. All right, let's work our way over to the Eastern Conference. In the first round, we have the Detroit Pistons versus the Orlando Magic. I grew up in the Orlando area. I grew up from Florida, not a Magic fan. But hey, I know the series is tied 1-1. Doesn't matter. I had the Detroit Pistons winning in 5, and I'm sticking by that decision. I believe the Pistons will win the next 4 games. I think this loss against the Orlando Magic at this point is definitely a wake-up call for them. But regardless, I had the Pistons winning in 5 before, and I still have the Pistons winning in 5. I cannot see the Orlando Magic beating the Pistons. I cannot. Ain't no way. And yes, the Magic are a good team. I don't think they're garbage, but they're not as good as the Detroit Pistons. But we'll see. We'll see. I definitely think the Magic have more offensive firepower than Detroit, but I'm going to tip my hat on Detroit's defense and their offense being led by Cade Cunningham to score for himself and get those other players involved. Number 4, Cleveland Cavs versus the number 5, Toronto Raptors. I'm taking the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5. I think the Raptors will get 1 game off of the Cleveland Cavaliers in Toronto, but outside of that, the Cavs are taking this 4-1 and 5. They're just not as good as the Cleveland Cavaliers. Point blank, period. No more analysis needed. Next up, number 3 Knicks versus the number 6 Hawks. Now, the Knicks, man, I believe the Knicks are going to win the series. But with the Knicks, you don't know if you're getting a sweep. You don't know if you're getting a 6-game series. You don't know if you're getting a 7. You just never know with this team, because of their inconsistencies. It's crazy. It's like the Knicks can play as good as the best team in the league, and they can play down to the level of the worst team in the NBA. That's how the Knicks play basketball. They're very inconsistent, and their record could be much better than it is coming into this. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if their record was even worse if they were more consistent than they have shown to be all season. But regardless, I'm picking the Knicks to win because I do believe they're the better team. Even though the Hawks have been one of the best teams and I think have one of the best defensives in the second half of the season. But I just can't see them being, well, I can't say that. I don't think they're going to be the Knicks. Would I be surprised if the Hawks won? No. You know why? Because the Knicks are the New York Knicks. And this is what they do sometimes. But if I was a betting man, and I am a betting man, I'm going to have to go the Knicks. I'm going to trust that they're going to have some sloppy games, some stinkers, but I think they will ultimately get the job done here. So I'm rocking with the Knicks in 6. 4-2 series victory, New York. They're the better team, in my opinion. They have better star power. They should get this done. They should. Next up, Celtics and 76ers, man. I could talk so much about Jaylen Brown and the Celtics. How he put this team in position to be where they are now. And then Jason Tatum coming back and has been an absolute stud on all levels of the basketball floor, especially facilitating. He hasn't been getting... His ability to facilitate as good as he does helps Jaylen Brown continue to be aggressive offensively while also allowing Tatum to get people involved. Not saying he's stat padding or anything like that, but, he's going to have a good balance, points, rebounds, and assists game. So I think that dynamic works very good together. But I'm going with the Celtics in a sweep. I don't think the 76ers are going to win a single game. I can understand all the reasons why people say you kind of don't want to face the 76ers. If Embiid is healthy, George came back, Tyrese Maxey, and that young kid, I think he's the rookie, right? I can't get his name off the top of my head right now. But you know who I'm talking about. And I get it. That's a lot to deal with, those 3 or 4 players in the playoffs. I get it. You wouldn't think of that as being your typical 7 seed, but they're there because of the injuries mostly. But no, I don't think they'll take a game off the Celtics. The Celtics are too deep. They have a legit MVP candidate this season, and Jaylen Brown, and Tatum is also an MVP caliber player, but not a candidate because he missed most of the season. They got Peyton Pritchard, Derek White. Man, Peyton Pritchard be hooping, man. I love watching that guy play. But anyway, yeah, Celtics in the sweep. let's move on. Second round, Eastern Conference playoffs. Pistons and Cavaliers. I think this will be a fun one to watch. Regardless, I think the Pistons are winning this. No question. I do think the Cavaliers have more offensive power. So the Pistons should definitely do what they do best and play defense. I do believe good defense will usually win out over good offense, is what I believe. Great defense versus great offense. I'm taking the great defense 9 out of 10 times. I just am. And defense is something that's effort. You know, sometimes you could give a lot of effort offensively, but sometimes the shots aren't going in. Defense is going to be there for you as long as you are there for defense, is what I believe. And as long as the Pistons hang their hat on what they do best, playing defense, I believe they can slow down this Cavaliers team that has exceptional playmaking and scoring ability. I do believe that. I do. And as long as Cade Cunningham is doing what he's doing to facilitate, I'm taking the Detroit Pistons in 6. I think the Cavaliers will take 2 games, and but the Pistons ultimately will prevail in 6. It will not go 7 games. And, you know, at some point, I expect playoff James Harden to reel his ugly goblin head, because we know what he brings to the table. Playoff James Harden, and that's absolutely nothing. Empty dinner table. Well, we'll probably get a lot of turnovers. Next, New York Knicks versus the Boston Celtics. Now, last season, I picked the Celtics over the Knicks, and I was wrong. This season, I am still picking the Celtics over the Knicks, and this time, I do not think I will be wrong. I think the Celtics are just going to be pissed. I think the Celtics are waiting for the New York Knicks to get payback, to get revenge. Because I believe the Celtics felt like they should have won that series last season. I still believe they should have won that series last season. But then again, like I said, you never know with the Knicks. You know, if they got their shit together, they're going to play like they're supposed to play. But what I have seen from the Celtics all season long is extremely impressive. I think they're coming back with a vengeance, and I think it will be too much for the Knicks to handle. I think they will be overwhelmed by the defense, by the tenacity, by the offensive execution, and the consistency that Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Peyton Pritchard, and the rest of the team will bring. And I do like their 2 centers they have in Boston. I can't pronounce the one guy's name that plays along with Vucevic, but yeah, definitely Boston Celtics. Eastern Conference Finals, Detroit Pistons versus the Boston Celtics. Sorry, Commissioner Dynamo and the Detroit Pistons. I'm going with the Boston Celtics. I believe this series will go 7 games. And ultimately, the experience and the offensive firepower, as well as the ability to dig in defensively and be great, maybe not as great as Detroit, but I think all of that is going to be too much for the Detroit Pistons. And I think at this point, the Detroit Pistons' lack of playmaking is really going to show its true colors, because they will be met with a Boston Celtics team that has exceptional scoring abilities and playmaking abilities across the board, but also a team that can rise to maybe close to the same level as the Detroit Pistons defensively, especially with 2 of their stars being able to show up defensively, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I think that's going to be too much for them to overcome. But like I said, I think it'll be a close series, and I think it will go 7 games. I do believe that. And I think the Celtics will win on Detroit's home court. That is what I believe. Denver Nuggets versus the Boston Celtics in a showdown 2026 NBA Finals. And honestly, I went back and forth with this for a while. I really did. And I have decided that this is going to go 7 games. 7 games. And I believe the Denver Nuggets are going to win in the Garden in Boston, Game 7. And I think Nikola Jokic will have the finals series of his career. I think he's going to be completely unmatched, unrivaled, unstoppable. I think Jamal Murray will be there, right there with him, providing big clutch time plays, great decision making, playmaking. I think that 1-2 tandem is just going to be ridiculous. I think Joker is going to get the Boston's bigs in a lot of foul trouble, to be quite honest with you. And I think both of their benches are, I would say, maybe on par with each other, comparable about as far as production goes, especially in the playoffs. Both of these teams have won a championship within the last, 5 years? But I'm going to go with the team that has the best player in the NBA, the team that's the hottest team rolling into the playoffs right now, the team that has Joker at the center position. It's going to be a matchup nightmare for Boston. And while the Boston Celtics, they do have 3 players that I believe they can keep throwing at Jamal Murray, giving him different looks to help slow him down with Tatum, Brown, and Derek White. I just don't think it's going to be enough, because at the same time, I do believe the Denver Nuggets, they have different players that they can throw at that two-man wing combo in Boston to make it more difficult for them. I don't think it'll stop them, but the Nuggets have wing players too that they can throw. And when you get to the finals, I think this is where you see all the teams dig in. You're going to get the best defensive effort from both teams. All the players are going to be locked in. They're going to dig in. I think the games are all going to be close. I think there'll only be, a couple possessions separating each team in the fourth quarter in those final minutes. But ultimately, I'm going to have to go with the Denver Nuggets as my pick for the 2026 NBA champions. I really went back and forth with this, and there was a time I almost picked the Boston Celtics, but you know what? I'm going with that guy. I'm going with that guy, Joker. I'm going with that guy, Joker. This team has been on a torrid run lately. Torrid. If the Nuggets do pull this off, it'll be a hell of a run, considering that after the first round, they don't get home court. As long as my playoff bracket plays out the way I, concluded, but they won't have home court after the first round. But we'll see. Do I feel confident in my picks? No, because I think there's a handful of teams that I can all see win a championship. I think the Thunder can definitely win it. I think the Spurs can definitely win it. I think the Celtics can definitely win it. And I think the Pistons can definitely win it along with the Nuggets. So there's several teams there that have a good chance of winning the NBA championship. So it's not something that I'm very confident in, but this is just my prediction. I know some of these series I'm unpopular predictions, but that's what I do sometimes. I go against the grain. But that's just my opinion. Share with me your opinion in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for stepping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified. Catch you on the next one. Lego, baby.